Sean Hannity did one of his silly panels on Friday, I believe, and this one was about weed, and I have to show you some of the dumb moments from this now classic segment.
You write a lot about moral issues. Morally, do you see this as part of America in decline?
Oh, I think absolutely that's the case. What we have here is a case of money over morality. And, you know, right now it's really funny. Folks, we're watching the chuckleheads, you know, we're watching these folks doing what they're doing out there and getting a good laugh about it. But when the body count starts rising, when people start dying, then maybe, yeah, it's real funny, isn't it? Real funny to talk about. But this is a classic example. This is a classic example, Sean, of people just not giving a damn anymore. You know what? They want to do whatever they want to do.
Don't give a damn about marijuana ODs.
Wait a minute. Hang on a second. I think what you're saying is they start with marijuana, then they drink, and then they snort coke, and they do blow, and they do this.
Where do you draw the line? Where do you draw the line?
The thing that's really setting pot apart from alcohol or from cigarettes is the psychiatric aspects of this. Anxiety, depression, paranoia, even psychosis. People get very anxious. Now, not everyone. Some people are inattentive, some are laid back. But the brain damage issue is even superseded by the psychiatric problems that can be long-lasting. And we're not talking about people trying it once, by the way. We're talking about ongoing use.
What studies do you have, though, that address prescription drugs and Ambien and Xanax and Valium and all of these other drugs? There is such an Wait, why can't I ever finish, Sean? Why you stress out marijuana, but we have a prescription drug problem in this country. You can watch the front page of every newspaper.
All those two go together. They go together. They're not separate. We have a prescription drug problem in the country, but people often over-medicate prescription drugs.
All right, Dr. Braverman, real quick, medical.
Here's what they're missing. It's called epigenetics. Each generation that smokes pot with animals gets fatter, less anxiety, germ cells get damaged, you can end up with generation after generation. Just because.
But isn't it cultural too?
It's about behavior. Behavior, when you're a bad boy and you eat junk food, you don't get fat in a day. The reasoning that's here is blinded and shallow and non-medical.
Because
you need to get to fat.
Because we're talking.
Just because you smoke pot once and you get away with it, you smoke pot for a year and get away with it means nothing. All right?
You're saying long-term usage.
Long-term, you're talking about countries, the behavior goes down tubes. All right, wait, I'm just saying, I got to break. Sean, you got to have some political reasoning here. Just like, you know, slavery destroyed a country, and in terms of its freedom, all right, just like New York voted for slavery, New York City voted for McClellan. You talk about revolutionary history, that there were Tories all over New York. We had confusion on stopping Hitler. These people are confused. They do not know that marijuana will damage their children generation after generation.
We'll pick it up when we come back.
Let's go.
Hang on.
Let's go for one fact. I'm probably one of the oldest in the audience. I grew up through the 60s.
One of the best looking.
Through the 60s. Let me tell you something, Sean. Fact. Every one of the potheads that I knew at that time, when they said, hey, bro, hey, bro, what's that? What's going on? Every one of them are brain dead. It's fact. Everyone that I know in my long history of life, everyone that was a pot smoker, their brains are defunctated. Defunctated.
Oh my God, man. Oh my God. Oh my God. That was epic in its failure. The last guy was my favorite. Former NYPD detective who, ironically, himself sounds brain dead, going, everybody who smokes pot is brain dead, eh? It's a fact, eh? Really, it's a fact? Are you sure you know what the word fact means? We've gone over on this show long, dense articles where they lay out geniuses throughout history. People who came up with brilliant mathematical theorems, people who were neuroscientists, and all of the drugs that they took. Carl Sagan, one of the most brilliant scientific minds of our time, smoked marijuana all the time. Just the list goes on and on of smart people who smoked marijuana. In fact, it's one of the few drugs that really turns you inward and makes you think a lot. Takes your mind down all these interesting, weird paths. But this guy who sounds brain dead himself is like, it's a fact that weed makes you brain dead. It's a fact. It makes your head defunctified. Did you just make up a word? As he's attacking other people's intelligence, he says the word defunctified. And I think that he thinks he's trying to sound more intelligent when he says that. Oh my God, that's such an epic fail. Oh, that's such an epic fail. And then the other guy, the one right before him, he's like, let me give you some information here. Epigenetics. Everybody's like, what the fuck? Who are you and what are you saying? That guy's not a scientist, by the way. He's not a doctor. He's not a scientist. He's just a fucking... And that guy looked high. How awesome was that? The second to last guy had like glassy eyes and shit. He's like, epigenetics. People smoke with animals and they get fat. Everybody's looking around like, what are you saying? And then he says... hello, we had slavery in New York. Okay. Huh? And he says, the Tories were all over New York. Okay, now are you punking us? Are you, like, doing a joke here? Because you're not making any sense. And then finally, of course, he had to do it, bring in Godwin's Law. People were confused about whether or not to get Hitler. Are you comparing people who want to legalize substances, which means increasing freedom? Are you comparing them to Hitler? You're comparing the decision to legalize marijuana to not going after Hitler. I don't even need to provide a counter-argument. That argument is self-defeating because it's so stupid that nobody can buy into it. And then also, when you get earlier on, I mean, come on, with the Todd Starnes, people will die from weed. He literally made people laugh on the panel. Like, all the sane people on the panel who, like, are not, like, these idiot prohibitionists who are like, I'm against legalizing anything I don't personally like. They just started laughing. They started laughing at him. Like, do you know anything about drugs, yet you're on a drug panel talking about this stuff? It is impossible to die from a marijuana overdose, dippity. There was a study that was released yesterday. It's more common and more likely and easier to die from drinking too much water than it is from smoking too much marijuana. You need to smoke 1,500 pounds of marijuana within 15 minutes to die. That's the LD50 rate, the lethal dose at 50% of people who take it. They know nothing. They have no idea what the fuck they're talking about. And then finally, the fake Fox doctor. Weed leads to anxiety and paranoia and psychosis and... yeah, sure. Like every substance does. If you take too much of it. If you take too much Advil, you die. If you drink too much caffeine, you die. If you drink too much alcohol, which happens all the time, you could ruin your life. Get cirrhosis of the liver. It can send you into permanent delirium. But he's like, oh, it's bad because of all these reasons. But any drug can have those effects if you take too much of it. What you're trying to do is you want to punish the overwhelming majority of users who use in moderation and who are just normal law-abiding citizens that hold down jobs and have normal lives. You want to punish the majority because a few idiots might go too far and might, stay at home all day and smoke. Well, we don't do that with alcohol. We don't do that with caffeine. Why should we do it with any others? And then when they make the great counter-argument of, but wait a second, you're not even focusing on Xanax and Percocet and the prescription pill abuse and all that stuff. He's like, no, that exists too. Okay, right, but one, you're fine with being legal, and the other, you're not. In other words, you're a hypocrite. There, conversation over. Either you say legalize it all, allow it all, or say ban everyone. If you want to ban everyone, hey man, there's a few societies that would be very, very happy to take you in. Iran, for example. Saudi Arabia. Any Sharia state would love to have you guys that want to go in and micromanage people's lives and tell them what they can and cannot take and how they should and should not live. Ironic how a panel full of conservatives just loves big government telling you what you should and should not put in your own body.